Okay. All right, let's go ahead. So I am going to just do a brief wagging my finger at all of you. You have to make this a priority, or you will not be able to learn this language. And I sometimes feel like, because we're fairly relaxed and we only meet once a week, that we think that we can just like do it whenever it suits us or do it when we think of it, and you can't, because it will get harder and harder and harder. And if you don't memorize everything thoroughly and you don't do the practice, it's just like if you were on a sports team. If you didn't come to practice, they will not let you play, right? If you are learning a musical instrument and you go to your music teacher, like, did you practice this week? No. It's like, well, you might as well go home, because what am I supposed to do if you won't practice at home? Do you see what I mean? So if you've got to take it seriously enough that you don't forget, or you don't just not do it. If you get a pass because you didn't know that it had been emailed to you and you had to miss last week. So please do it. You were all emailed the key to the test, or your parents were. If your parent didn't get it, ask me. I'll send it again. But I'm pretty sure I sent out an email on Wednesday that had the answers to them. So make it a priority and schedule the time, or you'll just be floundering. I mean, honestly, it'll be so much stuff that you'll never be able to get back on top of it. So please do the test. I would really like to see it. You don't have to scan it and email it to me or anything, although if you wanted to, or you know what you can do, you can take a picture of it. If you have a phone or your mom has a phone, take a picture and just email me the picture or text me the picture, and I will download it, and then I can read it and get back to you with feedback. But so that's your first job, because we're going to take a break next week. So you're going to have extra time. I'm going to give you some new material today, but you have 2 weeks to do one chapter. And that means not, oh, I can just do Latin for 1 week and take a week off. No, it doesn't mean that. You have to do it every day. That's the other. You have to do it every day. Every day that you skip will be stuff you forgot. And you'll have to work twice as hard the next day. It's just like physical exercise. If you're lifting weights, or you're running, I suppose in running you might have a day in between to let your muscles, rebuild, whatever. But if you just slack off, then you're going to have to start over again. And it's the same with Latin. So I would be remiss if I didn't warn you. It will come back to bite you. If you just, oh, I didn't remember. Also, if you read directions carefully. Read directions carefully. Although the directions in your case were understandably ambiguous. It just said, give this form, and it didn't necessarily say in Latin. And I'll grant you that. Okay, so now I've tongue lashed you. It's just mild. It's very mild. This is as tongue lashing as I get. I feel so bad. It's like, oh, I'm sure your life was so busy. What I want to say is, why did you not do your Latin? I never get very mean. Okay. We are going to learn 2 new important things. Everything we learn is important. Shouldn't preface by important. Everything we're learning, like I said, if you don't memorize it thoroughly, you will suffer later in the year. You will get to the point where I can't read any of these paragraphs. I don't know what's going on. And that's why we need to keep up with it. But use your time over break. Drill all your words every day. There's no reason. You don't know that many words. In less than 5 minutes, you could drill all your words. And the ones you miss, set them aside, and go back later in the day and do the ones you missed. And at the end of 2 weeks, because we don't meet next week, but we'll meet the week after. So 2 weeks from now, you will know all these words like the back of your hand. You'll know them just like that. Write out all the endings every day. Bo bis bit, bimus bitus bunt, bom bos bot, bamus botus bunt, ost, mustisant, I am I arm is as is, us e o, e orm is as is, e o, a orm is a is. If you don't know them like that right now, then you should be doing them every day, so that 2 weeks from now you know them and you can do them just like I just did them. Okay, that's the goal. This week we're going to learn some new forms, but we're not going to actually learn any new endings, which will make it easy. If you're still working on those first and second declension endings, it's great because you don't have any new endings to learn. This is a wonderful time for you to get caught up. But we're going to learn two things today: adjectives and the be verb. So the two, John's like, oh, all in one lesson? Yes, all in one lesson. Yes. What is an adjective? Yes. It's something that ties into our first class very beautifully, doesn't it? A word that describes a noun. So, the couch is brown, soft, leather, wrinkly, long, deep. Well, I mean, like you have to sit back. If you're short like me, like there's a lot of space between the back and the front. And that's this kind of furniture that makes my legs dangle because they don't quite touch the floor unless I scoot down. What? Yes. Or it could be that it is kind of poofy. I'm running out of them. The tree is green, comfortable. The tree is green, leafy, artificial, I'm assuming. Is it an artificial tree? Okay. So anything that tells what kind it is. Now, in English, adjectives are extremely easy to use. We just say the word, usually in front of the noun that it's describing. In Latin, however, adjectives, I'm going to write this on the board and just leave it here. Adjectives must agree with their nouns in number, case, and gender. What does that mean? I will show you, and actually, let's look at some of the adjectives. Okay, let's pick the adjective good. This is in your vocabulary list. And it's written like this: bonus, bona, bonum. And you might say, why in the world are there 3 words for good? I will tell you. There's only one word for good. It has different endings. It's feminine, neuter, and masculine. So I'm going to look up one of my sentences from last time that I made up. Okay. Okay, whatever. Nautai, insulam. I'm just going to make it present tense. Now, spectant. Okay, so first of all, let's translate this again. We did this last week, and anybody. The sailors, and that's island. So how can we put all that together? The sailors look at the island. All right, so we have a subject. Here all right, I'm going to put it down here. Arum, is, as, is, us, o. This is your goal, to be able to write these out just like I'm doing right now. Is, us, is, o. I'm trying to get them to line up, but I'm also leaning over to the side. And I know I'm writing on a slant. Okay, so we have nominative, which is our what? What is the nominative job? Subject. We have the dative, which does what? Oh. Oh, did you watch the video from last week's class? Okay, that's okay. It's the indirect object. And the accusative is what? Direct object. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm writing not very neatly at all. Okay, so we have a subject, and it's plural. We have a direct object, and it's singular. Now, what if I want to say that they're good sailors? These are good sailors. Now, this is kind of a bummer that I started with this one. Actually, can we start? Can we pretend they are girls before we pretend they are sailors? All right. So I see that girl. What? Yes. Yes. Let's do two alternate sentences. Does everybody understand what I'm doing? I'm doing it for you may already know the reason, but you will in a minute. Girls, puelli, is plural. It's nominative. And it's feminine. So when I choose a form of good, it has to be plural, nominative, and feminine. Puelli, boni. The good girls are looking at the island. Right? They always have to match. This is how I know that it's not a good island they're looking at. It's good girls. Yes. Now, I'm going to tell you something. It's not always going to be true, but for right now, it's true. As far as you know, it means they're actually going to look alike. They're going to have the same physical ending, the adjective and its noun. That's not always going to be true. So I'm just giving you that with, caution. But in this lesson, they're physically going to look alike. Yes. But if I wanted the girls to look at a good island, I want the island to be good, then I have to use a form of good that is accusative and feminine and singular. Now I know it's a good island and not good girls. Now, here's why I wanted to do girls first. And here's one of the occasions where they aren't going to look the same. Sailors. Is it singular or plural? What case is it? Well, we do, right here. It's nominative. What gender is it? It's masculine. So I have to use the ending that is plural and masculine and nominative. Nautai boni. These are feminine, these are masculine, and these are neuter endings. So this adjective, and all the other adjectives you're going to learn this week, can use any of these endings. We call them first and second declension adjectives. That's why they give you 3 of them. Because you choose the one based on the gender of your noun that you're describing, and then you choose the ending based on the number in the case. Let's do another one. No, let's just do a really easy one. Vir agrum arat. Just anybody who wants to come up with any of that translation, go for it. Man, yay. Plow. The land or the field. The man plows the field. So if he is a good man, now this is one of these weird adjectives, isn't it? Or weird nouns. It doesn't end in us. But I look at it and I say, okay, man is singular. Man is nominative. Man is masculine. So I have to go to masculine, bonus. He is a bonus weir. The good man is plowing the field. However, if he's plowing a good field, also, well, now I have to see, oh, it's singular, it's accusative, and it's masculine. I have to put, it's a bonum agrum. Does that make sense? It's not really crazy or anything. And unless it's poeta, nauta, incola, one of those masculine nouns that has feminine endings, or it's one of the weird, like puer and weir that you learned, most of the time they're going to look the same, but not always, not always. It's fine. I still know bonus goes with weir because I know they're both singular, nominative, and masculine. They must go together. They must go together because they match. So this is the adjective rule. Adjectives always agree with their nouns, whatever it is it's describing, in case, number, and gender. Yes?
So in a sentence, will the nouns always, not nouns, the adjectives always be in the sentence with the noun, or can they be separated to just have?
Most of the time, they are going to be near it. There's a rule that I can't ever remember. I think it's if it's an adjective that describes the number of something, how many, it goes in front. And if it's an adjective that describes the quality of something, it goes behind. Doesn't matter. They're almost always going to be right next to it, unless it's some sort of Latin poetry, in which case sometimes they separate them. You're not going to be reading any Latin poetry, so you don't need to worry about it. But it could come in between two words. You see, what if I didn't have this bonus and it just said, we're bonum agrum arat? And I've got this bonum in here, and I have to decide, well, geez, is he a good man or is it a good field? No doubt, this matches field, so it must be a good field. Same way if I just put the word bonus in here. And I was like, oh, well, it's in between the two. I wonder what's good. It's got to be the man, because they're both nominative. All right, are we good with that? Let me glance over in your books. Obviously, we're not going to do exercise 1. They ask you to identify the stems. Let's talk about that a little bit. It's kind of, I feel like it's almost self-explanatory. When we have a noun like puella, puelli, and we want to know, well, what part of this is the stem? What do I stick the endings onto? We have discussed that we go to the genitive and we take away the ending, and that's the stem. That's easy enough, and that always works. Well, in this case, it's a little different, isn't it? I am all butterfingers today. I keep dropping things, spelling things wrong. Notice the 3 endings. Us, Everything that's not part of the ending is the stem. Does that make sense? This is the stem. And you put the endings, whatever ending it is that you need on that stem. I don't think you're learning another one. Let's look at this adjective that they're going to give you in your list, though. Sacer, sacra, sacrum. That's really weird. It's got ER. It's like ager. It's got a weird ending. Do you know what it does? It declines like ager. Ager, agri. Sacer, sacri. I've actually written sacred or holy field in the nominative and the genitive now. But I could figure that out from up here. I noticed this is kind of weird, but I see this and this. So I know that this must be my stem. That E drops out. That's why when I learned that saker means holy, I don't just learn that saker means holy. I learned saker, sakra, sakram. Because it tells me what the stem is. They're going to ask you to put, in exercise 3, they just have good town, pious boy, bronze shields, big temple, and they tell you what case to put it in. That's all they want you to do. If I wanted to put good, I'm trying to think of a noun that you already know, that we haven't used, good gift. We learned donum, right? We learned gift, okay. And so I say, I want you to write good gift, and I want you to write it in the accusative plural. I can't write today. All right, first of all, I have to know the word for gift. I just told you what it was, but what was it? Donum. So I have to know the word for gift, and I have to know the word for good, and then I have to know what is accusative plural. Well, I've got 3 choices, so I have to say, geez, what gender is gift? Which, it's neuter. So these are the endings I want to look at. I want it to be accusative, and I want it to be plural. Dona, bona. Good gifts. Dona bona. I like it. So that's what they want you to do in exercise 3. Simply put it in the form in Latin that they ask for. Okay. Are there any questions about adjectives? I want you, like I always tell you to do, read through the book. I've told you everything they're going to tell you, but they'll tell you again. It reminds you of what we talked about in class before you do the exercises. The next thing, and this is going to be the thing you're going to have to start memorizing. You know, new endings, because these use all the endings you already learned. But we are going to have to work on our verb, the be verb. The be verb, I've used that term already in class. It is simply the form of is, are, was, were. It's the verb that doesn't show any action, the linking verb that just says something exists. The couch is big. The couch isn't doing anything, it's just sitting there. It's just being big. Yes. Eventually, but not today. You have already learned 2 forms of the be verb because it was not as easy for you to make sentences without them. You have learned est and sunt. Do you remember what they mean? Mm-hmm. Is and are. He, she, or it is, and they are. The be verb is irregular. You know, we learned to conjugate a mo. A mo, I'm not going to write it on the board. A mo, a mas, a mot, a mamas, a matus, a mont. Yay. Now, after I learned that, I can do all the rest of them, right? Porto, portas, portat, portamus, portatus, portat. I just use the same endings over and over. It's easy. But the be verb is completely irregular. It doesn't conjugate like a normal verb. And if you think about it, the be verb is totally irregular in English too. I am, you are, he is. What? I just used 3 different words. I am, you are, he is, and then we are, y'all are, they are. It's all R's in the plural, but singular is crazy. And then think about the was, were. Sometimes I say was. If it's singular, I say were. If it's plural, that doesn't sound like any other verb in English. When I want something to be happening in the past in English, what do I normally do? Like, I jump today, but I did it yesterday. What do I say? Well, just put an ending on jump for me. Jumped. We usually put an ed on the end, but that's totally fine what you said, but it wasn't what I was fishing for. But we also have some other verbs I run today. What did I do yesterday?
Right.
I didn't run. I runned. Unless you're older than 3, you know, I run fast. That's what 3, because that's the rule. They've learned you stick an ED on the end and it makes it happen in the past. And they don't know, it doesn't always work.
It makes complete sense, though.
It should be run. It's not. Okay, here's the be verb in the present tense. And this is on page 46, if you want to look. Sum es est, sumus estis sunt. Now, here's some couple of things that I love. I've learned these endings. And I'll be doggone. S, T, mus, tis, nt. Thank you, be verb. You actually used the same endings. However, the stem is just all over the place. Sometimes it's su, sometimes it's e. Yeah, I don't know what the stem is. This is why I just memorize it. Sum es est, sumus estis sunt. Sum es est, sumus estis sunt. I am, you are, he, she, or it is, we are, y'all are, they are. Well, if you haven't, then you have to work on it. But it's got sum es est, sumus estis sunt. And I think I've told you this before, I like to just get a piece of paper, and so I copy it out, and then I copy it out a couple times, and then I cover one, and I'll write sum es est, sumus estis sunt, and then I cover 2. And I just do it over and over until I've covered them all, and I've done it once without looking at all. And the next time I sit down to do it, I do the same thing. And eventually when I sit down to do it, I don't have to look at all. Or I can at least do the first 3, and I only have to look for the last 3. And if you think about it, if you do that, you've done it 6 or 7 times in one sitting, and it just clicks in for you. It's a good way to memorize it. We have already used, like I said, est and sunt. And we've used it like this. We've said things like puella est regina. What would that mean? The girl is the queen. And we've also noticed something else, that when we have a be verb, nothing's happening to anyone. And so there's no direct object. There's nothing is happening in the sentence. The girl's just existing, being a queen. So since this is nominative, this is too, because they're talking about the same person, right? And we have said we call this a predicate nominative, or sometimes in English they just call it a predicate noun. It's a noun that's sticking over here in the predicate at the end of the sentence, and it means the same thing as the subject. But after you learn adjectives, you can do a predicate adjective. The girl is good. How do I know what ending to put on good? Well, who is good? The girl. So it's got to match girl, because remember, adjectives always match their nouns in number, case, and gender. If it were a sailor who is good, and I remember that sailor is masculine, I will have to put a masculine ending on there. Still all going to be nominative, because it's just a word describing my subject. But they've got to match in gender. Does that make sense? So in this case, I call this a predicate adjective instead of a predicate noun. Amazing. If it's a noun, it's a predicate noun. If it's an adjective, it's a predicate adjective. That's easy. But it always is going to match its noun. Whatever it is that's good, whatever it is that's holy, it's going to match. So this is, I don't have any time, present tense. We, however, have already learned 3 tenses in Latin. We also learned the imperfect tense, This is the one where we would normally use bomba spot. But of course, it's probably no shock that this crazy irregular verb doesn't use bomba spot.
Wait, it's E-R-A and it goes on.
Aram,
Aras,
eras, erat, eramus, eratus, erant. So since this is imperfect, this is where we use the was or were when we translate. I was, you were, he, she, or it was, we were, y'all were, they were. And then we can also do it in the future. Ero, eris. Yeah, there you go. Erunt. There you go. Caden got it. Erunt. Good. I will be, you will be, he, she, or it will be, we will be, y'all will be, they will be. So we had up here the girl. The girl is good. We can say the girl was good. We can say the girl will be good. But no matter which tense we're dealing with, our adjective and our noun will always match each other. All right. They are going to ask you to memorize those. They are on charts on page 46. They are also going to ask you to translate on exercise 5. It says underline the predicate nominative or predicate adjective, then translate the complete predicate. I don't know why it says the complete predicate. I say translate the complete sentence. They remind you what a predicate nominative is. They remind you a predicate adjective. They have a chart where it says, they'll give you a verb form. Errant. I'll just leave all this. Is that, what tense is that? And you can just look here. Well, what tense? You imperfect. Errant. So it's imperfect. I'm doing the chart. I'm doing what they're going to, first, second, or third person. Third person. And is it singular or plural? Plural. And then they ask you to translate it. How would you translate that? They were. That's exercise 4. That's all they want you to do. Exercise 4. No, that's not. I just used an example. I don't even think that one's on there. I'm showing you how to do. Don't be greedy. I'm not doing exercise 4 for you. I'm showing you what they want you to do in exercise 4. No. Are there any questions whatsoever about this? It's like a few of you, namely John and Caden, have experience with this before. Maybe Ava and Luke don't, which just means you have to memorize them. But think about it. The only new things, you have 2 weeks to memorize, are the new words I'm going to go over with you in a minute. Sum est, sumus est sunt, aram eras erat, aramus eratus erant, ero eris erit, eremus eritus erunt, sorry. It's very, after you do it a few times, it will click in. It's kind of like learning a nursery rhyme or something. It has its little sing-song to it. Review everything every day. If you do not have time to do a full Latin lesson on any given day, at least take 10 minutes and go through all your vocabulary and write out all your endings. It will never be wasted time. It will never be wasted time, because you'll get to the point where you can just look at these. You don't have to think anymore. You just look at that and it says you will be. You don't have to picture the chart in your head anymore eventually. But it's only practice gets you there. Now, they have given you another reading. You get to read In every lesson, I believe, because that's the whole point of learning a language, right?
We're trying to translate it.
Yes, of course. Well, you've got 2 weeks. You might want to start adjusting your Latin schedule to perhaps here. I'm going to come out here, and that means I'm going to move the camera away from me because I'm just very large. If I sit here, no, you guys, this is it. You know what? If you guys, so I'm feeling edgy and mean today. If this were a math lesson, you guys were like, oh yeah, well, you got to do a lot of math to practice. I bet you spend 45 minutes at least every day on your math. If you don't, you're never going to get good at math. I'll just tell you that right now. But like my son used to spend in high school, he spent an hour a day on doing math. But if I ask you to spend an hour a day in your Latin, you're like, But it's a subject. You're taking Latin just like you're taking math. It's a subject. Now, some of you aren't technically in high school. This is recommended for 7th grade and up. This book was made for kids, young people, 7th grade and up. It's not too hard, but it's going to take the effort. We will get as far as we get in it. If we get through, 85% of the book, you could call this a high school credit. So if you're younger than high school, say yay raw for me. I'm super smart. I'm working hard. But in all the other classes, I bet, whatever classes you're taking, you don't balk at spending 45 minutes a day doing your science or whatever. And then you don't want to do it on this. You just want it served to you on a platter, but it's not going to be served to you on a platter. You're going to have to work for it. Just feeling very tough today. So do the reading. Now, question I need to ask you, though, is did anybody have trouble with the reading that you did this last time? Okay. Because sometimes here's a temptation. I know what all the words mean, so I can just link them together somehow and make it make sense somehow. No. There is a specific subject in that sentence, and there is a specific direct object in that sentence. And it is crying out to you with that ending. But it's not easy necessarily. It's harder, I think, when they give you readings when you're at your stage, where you have all those words and things you don't know, and you have to look at the list. The more words you actually know, then the easier it is, because you don't have to keep looking down at the list and trying to figure it out. It's hard for them to write stories with just the words that you know. You know what I mean? So did anybody mess up their translation, but then you looked at the answer and you didn't understand why you were wrong? Okay, that's the important thing. It's not making mistakes. It's when you do make a mistake and then you look at the key, like, oh, yeah, that was plural and I said it was singular. That was an indirect object and I thought it was a direct object. I didn't pay attention to the ending. As long as you know that, you're fine. I don't expect you to do these whiz through and not make any mistakes. I just want to make sure that you know why it is what it is. Okay, let's go through our words. Oh, one more thing. Please write this down. If you have a pen, I've got a pen I can pass around, or we can pass around Ava's pen. On page 49 in some of our books, I still can't get over that Luke's book is numbered differently. They have questions. Do you see it says Responde Latine? Does everybody see that? Yeah. And what do you think Responde Latine means? Respond in Latin. Answer the question in Latin. They're very easy questions. After you read, it says, quis est numa? Well, look down below. It says, quis qui means who. Qualis means what kind of. Quando means when. Cur means why. But they didn't tell you what quid means in sentence 6. Quid, write this down. Quid means what? I just was glancing over that before I came and I thought, what? They did not tell them. So, for example, John, since you're like, oh my gosh, respond in Latin. Who is Numa? Well, Numa is king. You see what I mean? And they tell you the word for king underneath, you know. That's all you'd have to write, 3 words. Numa est rex. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't, you don't have to write a whole story. What kind of king is Numa? What kind of man is Numa? Numa est bonus. Numa is good. Okay. You don't have very many words, you know. You can answer all of these in 3 words or 4. Let's look at those words now on page 43. Our first word is Deus, Dei. It means God. In the case of the Romans, it would be like Jupiter and Juno. If we're ever talking about the real God, we usually capitalize it, just like we do in English. So I can see it's second declension, masculine. And it says M after it, and I see second declension. Flamma, flammai. It's feminine. I can tell that it probably would be because it's first declension, and it means flame. Flammable. If something is flammable, you can catch it on fire. You know, I've also heard inflammable also means you can catch it on fire. It should be, I can't catch it on fire. It's inflammable, but flammable and inflammable mean the same thing. A weirdness of English. Oh, yes, maybe. It's in the flammable category. I don't know. Seems wrong to me. Scutum. Scutum, scuti means shield. I personally remember this by thinking of the fact that my kids had one of those round sleds that looks a bit like a shield, and they would sit and you scoot them over to the edge, and then you slide down the hill. This is how I remember scoot them. I'm just telling you. I just see them scooting on their shield sled. Scutum means shield. Signum or signum. It is also another second declension neuter, and it means sign. This is not a newsflash. It looks exactly like the word sign, signum. And last, templum, another second declension neuter, and it means temple. Easy. Those are gifts. We have some new verbs. Creo, creari, creavi, creatum. Create. Easy. Now, look at the next one and beware. Uo, uari, ui, utum. Ui is the third part. It's a bit like do. It's weird in its third part. This is your second irregular first conjugation verb. You learn do, dari, dedi, datum. Uo, uari, ui, utum. Opto, optari, optavi, optatum. Wish for. Desire. Like option. What do you opt for? That's what you choose. Salto, saltari, saltawi, saltatum. Leap or dance. If I remember my biology correctly, so you know how birds just kind of hop around, you know, they have that distinctive walk, and they call it saltation because they're like leaping. Has nothing to do with salt. Has with leaping and dancing. That kind of walk that birds have. And we have the be verb. The be verb, as you would expect, of a crazy irregular verb has crazy irregular parts, but they're fun to say. Sum esse fui futurum. Sum esse fui futurum.
Isn't the perfect have the start with an F?
Yes, that third principal part, fui. That's what you use for the perfect tenses. So, uo, uari, ui, utum. Okay, I have to memorize that one. Sum esse fui futurum. You have to memorize that one. But the rest of them are just like every first conjugation verb that you've learned. All right, adjectives. Aeneas, Aenea, Aeneum, bronze. This will come in very handy if you want to describe your shield. Bronze shield. Bonus, bona, bonum, we have already looked at. Bona fide. Bona fide means in good faith in Latin. Bona fide. And so bona fide means it's true, it's legitimate, it's been assured by proper authorities that it's true. Okay, magnus, magna, magnum, big or great. If you put something under a magnifying glass, it gets big, right? Multus, multa, multum means many. Well, like multiply. If you multiply, you get more, right? You get a lot of them. Next page. Pius, pia, pium. Pious. Pius Aeneas, right? All right. Pious, devout, or God-fearing. Sacer, sacra, sacrum. We already talked about that one. Sacred or holy. Tutus, tuta, tutum. Protected or safe. Now, we've got a couple more words here. Dum and tum. Dum means while, and tum means then. And quoque. Quoque means also. Dum and tum and quoque are not nouns. They are not adjectives. They are not verbs. So their ending never changes. Dum means while, and it always looks like dum. It never changes. Quoque means also, and it always looks like quoque. So I want you to practice everything every day. If you did not do your Latin test, I want you to do it. All right, the whole thing. If you don't have answers already, if your mother has not received answers from me, ask for them. Now, I'm putting this on you guys, all right? Because I'm afraid by the time I get home, I'm going to forget, because I already sent them last week, I was pretty sure. If you don't have answers printed out or on a computer in your house, tell your mom, I need to talk to Mrs. Ferguson. Send an email to Mrs. Ferguson, okay? That's going to be you guys. I want you to check it. But I would still like you to bring it back to me, just so I can see how you did. I want you to read through chapter 7 and do the exercises. And remember, don't put working on chapter 7 off till the second week, because you got that reading to do. All right? Pages 50 and 51 are just for fun. It's a list of all the deities, most of which you know because you're both in classes where we're talking about the Greek and Roman gods. So this is news to you. And then there's a talk about the days of the week. Those are just for fun. Those for you to look at. But I encourage you to do that because it's enriching. Okay, are there any questions whatsoever? Are we good? Listen, this is the most important thing I'm going to say. Maybe not, but it's pretty important. If you are doing your Latin sometime over the next 2 weeks and you are stuck, I do not know how to do this, I do not know what to do, I don't know what this means, you can email me or call me. I will get on the phone with you and I will get my book out and we will go through it together. I am very happy to do that. And I would rather you asked me now than had to wait for 2 weeks, okay? I also, this afternoon, will hit send, and I've already got an email ready with the key to chapter 7. So when you do it, you will be able to check yourself, all right? If you ever check yourself and you don't know why you got it wrong, you don't know why the right answer is the right answer, please put a mark by it. Put a star, highlight it in a different marker color or something like that, and ask me. If you didn't know, probably someone else in here didn't know either. Okay. All right. Are we good? All right. I'll let you go.
Oh, so this time we're doing the work inside of the book.